The elements are used as symbols to represent the 5 movements of energy present in everything. In China, the 5 elements are utilized in astrology, as well as in traditional medicine and the practice of martial arts. In the Taoist tradition, originally, there is a single, unmanifested force, Wu Xing. To manifest itself, it divides into 2 polarities, yin and yang, and then into 5 movements, the 5 elements. This division can continue with the 8 trigrams, Bagua, and the 64 hexagrams, I Ching. It is important to understand that it is always the same thing, we just choose the level at which we look. In the human being, the elements are associated with virtues, emotions, and organs. For example, wood is linked to creativity, which is why it is said that people with a wood element are creative. However, everyone can work on their wood element and develop their creativity. All these elements are interconnected and interdependent. If one element is imbalanced, it affects all the others.
Each element transforms and generates the next one. Excess of an element is said to occur when this transformation does not take place. There is thus an accumulation, and the blockage obstructs the transformation cycle. Wood burns and becomes fire. Fire turns into ashes and becomes earth. Earth contains metal within it. Metal, when melted, becomes water. Water nourishes wood.
Each element serves to temper another. If an element is deficient, it may be because the controlling element is too dominant. Conversely, when an element is in excess, its controlling element can be used to temper it. Wood tempers earth, its roots draw from the earth. Fire tempers metal by melting it. Earth tempers water by absorbing it. Metal tempers wood by cutting it. Water tempers fire by cooling it down. You can work with an element to address an imbalance, whether it's a deficiency or an excess. However, you can also do this when you need the virtue associated with the element. For example, if you're going to speak in public, working with the fire element might be a good idea. When there is a deficiency in an element, you can work on the deficient element and also its preceding element, which helps nourish the deficient element. It's also important to ensure there is no excess in the controlling element. Let's take the example of a lack of fire. You can work on wood to nourish fire. But it is also necessary to check that there is no excess water which would extinguish the fire. It's difficult to light a fire if there is no wood, but when the wood is wet it is just as difficult.
When there is an excess of an element, you can work on the excess element and also the following element to continue the transformation cycle. You can also temper the excess element by working on the element which controls the element in excess. Finally, you can work on the element that controls the element in excess. If the controlling element is strong, it will require more energy to control and thus reduce its own excess energy. Let's take the example of excess of fire. You can work on earth, the following element. Fire naturally wants to transform into earth. If it doesn't, it creates an excess. You can work on water, which helps control the fire. You can also work on metal. Strong metal will demand more fire to be controlled, which helps temper the fire. Things are often more subtle than they appear. It can be tempting to simplify and use this as a checklist, but it's often more nuanced. The idea is to find a balance among all these elements. Of course, if you notice a deficiency or excess in one element, it will guide you, but don't forget to balance the other elements. As always in Chinese culture, it's a global approach.
How do you know if there is an excess or deficiency? Each element is associated with an organ, a virtue, and an emotion. Identifying disturbances at these levels can help determine which elements are in excess or deficiency. For example, fire is associated with joy. A lack of joy may indicate a lack of fire. Conversely, euphoria may indicate an excess of fire. Since fire is also associated with the heart, heart-related issues could suggest a problem with the fire element. In the case of hypertension or tachycardia, there is an excess of energy. Conversely, if it's hypotension, there is a deficiency.
What do you do concretely? To balance the 5 elements, you can use various tools. Specific meditations, diet, qigong exercises, pressure points, and daily activities adapted for each element. Meditation is, for me, the most effective means. However, it's very personal, and some tools are more effective than others depending on where the blockage is. Specific exercises for each element can be used to address them. You can also impact your diet. Certain foods, flavors, or herbs can activate an element. This might involve adding certain foods or eliminating others. For example, eliminating sugar can help temper the liver. Pressure points can activate circulation and clear blockages in specific meridians, similar to acupuncture, which can be used to influence an element. In qigong, you'll find specific exercises that help balance the elements. Finally, some activities can nourish specific elements. Gardening or being in contact with the earth, for instance, nourishes the earth element. Taking the stage and exposing yourself to the public can help nourish the fire element, and so on. But we will develop this in specific videos for each element.